forests of central India and the protesters in Wall Street are connected by a big pipeline.
Kenneth Chamberlain, the 68-year-old veteran, fatally shot by police in his own home.
He was proud to be a Marine.
At every block, police are saying to the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
Weekdays at 12 on WLAE.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, can you feel it in the air? That's right, it's March Madness. It is here, our favorite time of year if you're a hoops fan, and it is going full swing starting this week. The conference tournaments are finally over. You had a lot of automatic teams that won their conference tournaments. NC State made that big run, winning 5 in a row to shock the world, winning the ACC. But how about this? We have 2 Louisiana teams coming and 2 that don't get there very often, including the first one, Grambling. The Grambling Tigers have never been there. Congratulations to the SWAC champions. Grambling State is going to the big dance, and also the McNeese State Cowboys. This team has been a magical story. 23 losses last year, 30 wins this year, and they are going dancing. And there's your man, Will Wade, the original gangster. That's right, I love Will Wade. He is the guy that was at LSU and did a great job at LSU. Got in a little trouble, and then he's at McNeese State, and I'm looking forward to watching that game against Gonzaga this week. That's going to be a fun one. Hey, and by the way, that's not it. How about these regions? Let's start with the East. We're going to roll through it because I have my man Jack Benjamin coming on this show. We're going to chat about the tournament. UConn is the first overall seed. Look at BYU. That team's experienced. They can shoot the three, and they run and gun. That'll be a fun team to watch. Iowa State dismantled Houston. And let's go to the South. The South has got Houston. Houston got run. That's who the Iowa State whipped, like I said earlier. Wisconsin won their tournament. So they went rolling along as well. And don't forget all these teams in here. NC State, I just mentioned, winning their tournament. Florida got to the final. They lost their big man in the SEC tournament. But that's going to be fun. And down in the Midwest, this one's the one. I mean, it's got some interesting things. That's where Gonzaga will play 12-seed McNeese. We're going to get into all this later. You got St. Peter's. Remember them 2 years ago? They were the 15th seed, got all the way to the Elite 8. That was a crazy story. Purdue, that's Zach Edey in that picture. He is the National Player of the Year last year, probably will be again this year. Tennessee. Don't sleep on the Vols, but the team I like in there, Creighton, we're going to talk more about them later. The 3 seed could be dangerous. And over in the West, and that's where Carolina resides as the 4th number 1 seed. And then you have, obviously, down there, Arizona. That's a dangerous team. But that 8-9 game is very interesting. That's going to be a physical matchup. Mississippi State came on strong at the end of the year. Michigan State with Tom Izzo, you always know they're going to be dangerous. So we'll get into all that and more later on as we talk about it. LSU women's, how about them? They are a 3 seed. They thought they'd be a 2, but this is actually better. Because if they were the 2 seed, they were going to have to be over there with South Carolina. Now they got a team they beat last year in Iowa. I know Iowa's everybody's darling, but I think it's a little better for them. They got UCLA as the 2 seed in that thing. So before, if they get that far, they'll have to beat UCLA to get to Iowa. That'll be a game everyone's eyes will be on, of course, after Caitlin Clark got beat by the Tigers last season. LSU men, they're going to the NIT. Hey, that's a big thing for LSU. Remember, they started from scratch last year, and they only had 3 conference wins. They went 9-9. I think that's a big accomplishment for a team that's just been kind of put together. But they play tonight against North Texas. That'll be in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center at 6 o'clock. So check that out on TV. And I got to give props to my Loyola women's basketball team because they are in the Sweet 16 in the NAIA. Kelly Kennedy, that lady in the middle, will be on this show. If it's not next week, because next week is the finals on Tuesday, then it'll be the week after. So let's root for her to come in 2 weeks so they can get possible championship down there uptown on St. Charles Avenue. How about also this? The Pelicans, man, this team is rolling. They did have 1 loss last week, but, man, they came back with 2 good wins at home, including this one Friday night against the Clippers. Congratulations. They're only 1 game behind the Clips for the 4th seed. You know what that means? Home court advantage in the first round. Now, when you play the Clippers, I'm not sure that's going to matter. If they get full speed back, they're going to have 4 guys that are going to be Hall of Famers, so I still think the Pels can beat them, but I don't know if the home court's going to matter as much to the Clippers as it might another team. Hey, and the Saints, man, a lot of news happened in the last 24 hours. Let's start with Chase Young, the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 draft. This guy is a beast, and I cannot wait to see him in a Saints uniform. He came from Ohio State, played with the Redskins / Commanders / the Washington football team, and then he went to San Francisco last season and went to the Super Bowl. He and Willie Gay, the linebacker from Mississippi State. He had 4 great years with the Kansas City Chiefs. He started like 56 games, man. That's a lot of games for a young guy. These guys are both good and young. Only 24 years, both from the 2020 draft. And we got a couple guys. One of them's coming home. Stanley Morgan is a former St. Aug receiver. He played with the Bengals, but he went to Nebraska. I called his games in 2014 when on TV when he played for St. Aug. I love what he brings on the special teams. He's going to fight for some receiver time, too. Cedric Wilson, this is a great addition. This is a guy that's been overlooked most of his career, but, man, when the ball is thrown to Cedric Wilson, that guy brings it home, and I like this guy bringing it in. He is from the area as well, right up the road in Memphis. And the NOLA Gold, I got to give them props. They won their first 2. They fell on this past weekend on Saturday. I watched the entire game, and it was entertaining. They went up 14-0. And New England is the defending champions, New England Free Jacks. They came back and won that game 27-21. But, you know, the Gold still got a point because if you lose by less than 7, you get a point in the point standings. So they're going to be home in a couple weeks. I want you to get out and support that team. They got a road game this week and then a bye, and then they'll be back in early April. So check that out. Also, we have a great show. We got, hey, how about this? I'm wearing some blue right here. Blue shirt, some blue in my tie because the UNO Beach Volleyball girls are coming today. We have 2 members of that team coming. I cannot wait. We're spreading out our wings and doing more sports, and I'm looking forward to that. We're going to talk all NCAA tournament as well. We're going to have my man Jack Benjamin, who was on about a month ago. We're bringing him to talk tournament. He is an NCAA tournament expert, and also, you know who's the Saints guy, Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints. He is going to come in here and tell you everything you want to know about Saints free agency, their new pickups, and who they might be looking for in the draft. So all that's next right here on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, you know it's March Madness, but we're going to take a little detour. We're going to get into March Madness coming up next, and we're going to talk all about the Saints free agents and their pickups as well. But first, we're going to dig into a different sport. That's what I've been doing lately, and I love it. We've had a bunch of golf and tennis and some track and cross-country stuff, and also swimming. Well, now we're going to get near the water, but it's beach volleyball. It's been around New Orleans for the last decade. You know, they've been playing club ball here for a couple decades, but the local colleges, including UNO, they've been doing it for about 10 years. And I can't wait because we have 2 of their great players right now, and one's from Spain and one's from Missouri, and they're playing number 1 most of the season, and they're 10-3. And here they are. First of all, let me see if I get this right. Maria Ada, pretty close, and Bria Garmon. How you doing?
Nice
Good to see y'all. Well, this is a first, because I mean, I've never had beach volleyball, so I'm gonna start with you. You're a new student at UNO. You came from Central Arkansas, correct?
Yes.
So tell me this, when did you get started playing beach volleyball?
My sophomore year of high school is when I completely cut out indoor volleyball and started playing beach only.
Right.
My friend from my club team actually owned a beach volleyball facility.
In Missouri?
So, yes, in Missouri.
Cool.
So I got to go and like train there, and I was like, it's a little more chill than indoor volleyball, so I completely made the switch then.
So it is, isn't it? I mean, now indoor, I'm assuming still 6, right? You play
Yes,
6 on 6?
yes.
It's tough. 2 on 2. Like I traveled for a summer watching the Pro Beach girls and guys in 2007, and I was just amazed that the athleticism you have to just play 2 in the beach. So what was the main fundamental difference for you when you started playing, obviously going for the team sports, or just the 2 of you?
Just figuring out how to like balance the court. Like you never really in indoor you have to be good at one thing, and in beach you have to be good at like all of them. So you have to block, you have to pass, you have to be good at setting, you have to be good at all of it. In indoor you can hide the bad things, you know.
Well, you say that. Okay, do y'all have a set thing like this? Like I know in regular volleyball, now I'm speaking as a newbie basically talking, but I know enough about it to be dangerous. Do y'all have a set thing like they do in regular, like somebody's going to be a setter, the other guy's going to be the striker or whatever? Do y'all just do whatever it takes because it's 2 of you, right? Yeah,
so in beach you can be a full-time blocker, you can be a full-time defender, or you can be a split blocker, and both of us are split blockers. So we do them both. So if I'm serving, she's up at the net, and vice versa. Okay, you come from Spain. The first question I have to ask Maria, do you pronounce it Maria, or do you have the TH?
You can pronounce it Maria.
Okay, we'll go with Maria. No, but why'd you come to New Orleans?
So I had a friend last year from Spain, like where I live, and she was like, "You should come, like you're gonna love it. The program is so good." So I just gave it a try, and I love it.
Well, I'm gonna say this: New Orleans. Your opinion of New Orleans before you got here? Like, what was your thought process? Have you heard of it? And if you did, what had you heard?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Like, it's like a really famous place, but I didn't really like know anything about New Orleans, but I'm loving it.
Well, I'm gonna say this: the food. First thing I think of, you did a little squeamish thing. You either like seafood or you don't. Down here, we're right on the water.
I like seafood, but I think here it's like everything like spicy. In Spain, not like anything spicy.
Nothing spicy?
Like some things, but not like at all.
No, not cayenne pepper
yeah,
spicy.
Here it's
right.
everything.
Have you tried crawfish?
Yeah, I like it.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You kind of squinched again.
She's really picky.
Yeah, I'm really picky.
What do you normally eat? I'm just curious.
Here, I eat.
Because I might have to switch my gift certificate up, because we have a steakhouse too, if you're more into that.
I like steak. I like steak.
We're going to fix that up. We're going to go steak with you.
I like pasta. I like.
What is it called?
Pasta.
Oh, pasta.
Yeah.
I thought that was fast food meets pasta. Pasta. No. I was like, all right. All conference, your freshman year, Southland Conference. You're still in the Southland Conference. I'm assuming these teams are all like basketball and baseball, the same conference, right?
Yeah.
So what made you come and switch from, Central Arkansas, excuse me, to come? I know Central Arkansas is right next to where you grew up, pretty close.
Yeah.
And you're coming down to New Orleans. What made you make the switch?
Well, I've played like my first 3 years at UCA. I've played UNO all the time, and I just loved seeing like their atmosphere, like the vibe that they brought like to the court. Their coaches always seemed so nice playing them. So I was like, it seems like a good program. Like I know that it is because I've played them, and they've always been super nice. And then New Orleans, my mom actually does some like business down here, and she's like, I love the area, like they loved it. So when I came on my visit, I was like, oh, it kind of feels like home.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you have the same rules as far as transfer. You don't have to sit. You just come with 1 year transfer portal thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned the vibe, and I want to get some specifics because you have a big tournament this weekend, and I'm going to come. I heard about this, and I think Sunday's my day. I got stuff to do on Saturday, but what is the vibe here in New Orleans like that made you attracted? What made it attractive to you?
It's like no judgment. Like no one here like judges you for anything. Like I kind of just walked on the team, and I could be like my complete like full self, and like no judgment. Everyone's just here to have fun. Like and like it translates to the beach game because that's all it is. Just chill vibes and having fun, and like competition.
Okay, this tournament, then I got to tell everybody now. This is this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, from 8 to 6. I'm assuming maybe.
Yeah.
So all day, beach volleyball. You have a ton of teams. I think, is it all your conference foes?
Yeah.
They're all coming in?
Yes.
So this is a new facility you have, and I know most people in New Orleans have been to Lakefront Arena, whether it be for a UNO game or a concert or whatever. Hogs for a Cause is out there sometimes. Tell us where this is, and tell us more about the event and how cool it's going to be.
Yeah, so
we heard the weather's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The courts are in between the baseball facility at UNO and then the Lakefront Arena.
Oh, so where the parking lot was? Is that?
It was tennis, I think.
Okay. Well, okay. I knew there was a parking lot somewhere around there. But so is tennis still there too?
It's like in front of the.
I know where you are then. Okay. Okay. So tell me what it looks like and how big is it? How many courts?
We have 5 courts across like this. So this weekend we'll be playing all 5 pairs across at once. Usually in beach volleyball you play like 3 and 3, so the 4, 5, 6s would play, and then the 1, 2, 3s would play. But since we have 5 courts across, we can play our 1 through 5s all at once, so it kind of makes it go faster.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, it's our new facility.
Well, what do you think about it? I mean, have you played around the entire continent of
So when I came here, there was only 2 courts and like another place. And then they made this new courts, and they're great.
I mean, I don't know how recruiting is. Avery Thibodeau, your coach, is here. When you come to a school, obviously you got the vibes like you talked about, great city. But when they see these courts compared to maybe what you used to have, do you think that's a big recruiting tool, and why?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
All right.
Especially now that we can actually host things, because I know previously they talked about having only the 2 courts. You couldn't really host anything because the games would take forever and ever. But now since we have 5 across, that's something that we can get it done fast. So that's a big recruiting thing. We can have mid-conference, like a lot of games going on, and that's awesome to have.
So the tournament this weekend is called exactly what? Y'all were supposed to memorize that one. The
Southland Mid-Conference Tournament.
You got it. All right, you got it. That's awesome. So that starts. Okay, but what if they want to see y'all play, like your team? When does UNO? What they going to start at 8 a.m. on Friday, or when do you have set times yet, or is it
10:30 and 5 on Friday and Saturday?
Okay.
And then Sunday 8 a.m.
And nothing after that on Sunday?
And Sunday at 4 p.m.
That's more my style. 4 p.m. Particularly after going to maybe a wedding Saturday. I don't know. No. A senior day. It's senior day?
Yeah, on Sunday.
Okay, we got it from the gallery over here. It's senior day, so they're going to celebrate seniors, which you are.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
Right. You got a couple more years to wait.
2 more.
So y'all, you have another team, and I don't know the names, but I saw I was looking through pictures that's been playing one. Sometimes so you guys seem to have merged, you girls. What made y'all mesh so well together?
So funny story, last year at Southern Miss, UCA was there and UNO was there, and we actually played against each other.
Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, so we knew of each other before, and I was like, she's really good.
Really?
Yeah. So I knew of her. So coming in, I was like, okay, at least I know someone a little bit. I know how she plays. I know she's a good player.
I thought she was gonna hate me at first.
Tell me what happened. Tell me what happened made you think that.
Because we play against each other, and I won one game, and then she won the other game. So we were like.
So you had some competitive juices.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to be her agent then, right now. If I'm running a team or if I'm a coach and professional, tell me why I should take her as a player. What makes her so good?
She's awesome. She have a ball control, perfectly ball control. Good attitude. She makes the game easy.
Okay.
I don't know. I love playing with her.
All right, that's pretty good. Now you be her agent. Why is she good?
She always has this big smile on her face.
Yeah, I mean, I can smile too all day long. That's not gonna make me great.
She has great ball control. It's just so easy. She speaks good English. Contrary to what she says.
Unbelievable English.
Yes.
Seriously. By the way, y'all, I'm gonna look at the camera here because it's the only thing I can see is this camera in my monitor. But the fact is that she just started speaking English 18 months ago. I thought she talked a little bit over there, but I thought she had grown up with it a little more. Unbelievable English.
No.
For real. I mean, no, I'm not going to ask you to do a calculus problem here, but no, it's unbelievable. So here, you're going into this tournament. Give us some of the other teams that we might be looking forward to seeing.
So Corpus Christi will be a really good team to watch for. They won last year.
Near the water, makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Boise.
That's Texas Corpus Christi for those of you who don't know.
Boise will be really good. We played them at the Paris Championship in the fall.
Oh, nice.
So we know they're a good team.
Wait, Paris, France, or Paris, Texas?
Paris, like Paris.
Oh, Paris.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, we're going to Paris for the Olympics?
I wish.
So in Paris, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many teams are coming?
17.
7
yeah.
teams. So they each get to play each other?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I want to do this one more time before we let you go because I want people to come out and support you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a new facility. I'm going to say this, and I can't wait to see what it looks like because I remember the thing they had out. What's the one at the lake? What do they call that? Coconut Beach or something? Coconut Beach.
Yeah.
I've been out there a minute ago, but is it compared to that? I mean, I'm asking the coach right now.
Yeah, a little bit smaller, but
Same kind of premise. Then it's going to be a fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
How long does the season go? And tell us how, like, when does it end? I mean, do you have NCAA tournament like the other sports do? How does it work at the end of the season? Do you have playoffs?
I think we have like conference, and then if we win, we go to.
So you have a Southland Conference tournament type thing?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you win, you might go to the next level like they do?
The national championship.
Yeah, the national.
Okay, nice. And y'all have done well. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You're 10-3, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and the team overall is doing well.
Yes.
Most of the people that are watching have no idea, so I'm trying to let them know, hey, this is the team you want to get behind. I say this every show. I want everybody in New Orleans to support all of our schools, all of our professional teams, and certainly all of our sports. And that's why I started doing this more on this show, because I want to give all the other sports some love, and also the women as well. I mean, I've had a lot of women that have been on the show, but obviously there's been more men, and I want to change that a lot more. I brought 4 shirts because you got your coach and we got Randy Bowler to take care of today. This one's for Coach. This is Task Performance.
Thank you.
And I'm going to tell you, if you've never worn this, you're going to start throwing away your other stuff. I got y'all. These are 3 lady shirts. That's a men's shirt.
Thank
you. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and, since you like steak, I'm going to give you both 50. Okay, hey, here we go. This is for Shays Delachase or Delachase. Take your boyfriend. I'm only saying that, Randy, because I was already told. This one's for her. Just a steak. So that's Mr. John's Steakhouse on St. Charles Avenue. Trust me, that's one of our better steak. That's one of our best steakhouses, no doubt about it. Desi Vega. He owns that. There's also a Desi Vega Steakhouse, so you know it's going to be good. I want to thank you both for coming on. This is exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to sign the helmet because you know what? This is a new thing with UNO. Blake Dean, your baseball coach, brought this. And he said, I didn't even read that before. He said, to my guy, Scotty. All right. And then we've had Tim Duncan on it. So you're going to be the 3rd and 4th on this helmet.
Anywhere?
Anywhere. Make it big so I recognize your name, in a couple weeks. I have some people that sign, and I don't know who they are. So that's Bria Garmon and Maria Ozeata.
Yeah.
Close enough. All right. Congrats. Let's get out there and support the beach volleyball team at UNO and support them all. Let's get out there. And, baseball's still going on. Give Blake some support, too. I love Blake Dean and his privateers as well. Hey, moving forward, we're going to touch March Madness. That's right. We have 2 teams from Louisiana that go. It's not the normal ones, not LSU. Not some, Lafayette's gone as well before. Now we've got McNeese with Will Wade. He is rolling. 30 wins, only 3 losses, and they're going to play 5th seed Gonzaga first round, and also Grambling State Tigers. We're going to talk about it all. The SEC teams that are going to be there. We're going to talk about the other conferences, who we think is going to get there, who's going to go to the Final Four. Get your brackets ready. Don't blame me if you lose. We're just going to throw out suggestions, but also we're going to talk about all the great Saints pickups with Ross Jackson coming up. Chase Young just was signed yesterday. That is a huge pickup, the 2nd overall pick of the draft in 2020, and a late 2nd rounder in that same draft, Willie Gay. Both those guys played in the Super Bowl last year. Willie Gay started 56 games for the Chiefs in the last 4 years. So we're going to talk about all that and more right here on Primetime Sports.
You've heard about rugby, the hard hits, the whole no pads thing, but rugby is more than that. It's this, a whole day, a whole culture.
Well, the fans bring the energy, so we better bring it too.
Every play, every match, for the city we call home.
This is rugby, and we are NOLA Gold.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I want to thank the young ladies from the beach volleyball at UNO. That was a lot of fun. But now we're getting down to business. We're talking NCAA tournament. I'm not going to say we're going to help you with your brackets, but we're going to chat about it. You can take the nuggets we use and maybe, use something if you want. But if you don't win what we say, we don't want to hear about it. Don't add it. Jack Benjamin's back. Jack was on a month ago. I never bring people back after just a month, but this was a special circumstance. NCAA tournament expert. He's on a lot of podcasts, a lot of shows, talks about basketball, called a lot of basketball, including the entire Southland Conference. For the conference, McNeese won that one. So let's start there, Jack. Welcome to the show, first of all.
Appreciate you having me back. I thought maybe it'd be a couple of years before I could return, but hey, I appreciate you having me again. Had a blast last time, and this is the best time of year for me. March Madness, it is. It just doesn't get any better than this. Over the course of Thursday, Friday, all the games going on nonstop during the workday. I just can't wait.
Isn't it the best? I as a college student and then law student. I mean, I remember we would take off class. Professor's like, where are you at? I said, don't worry where I'm at. I'm not in school. But then I was lucky enough to work with Tim Brando back for 8 years. We did tournaments where we went all the way to the Final Four. We did the first 2 rounds, and then you do the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. And then he got bumped to where they just did the first 2 rounds, but it's still amazing because you get there on Monday or Tuesday. If we have the Thursday game, we get there Monday. You get the practices and you get the interviews. You get the flavor. All 8 teams are coming in for your region, and it's something I miss. I haven't done it now in about a decade and a half. I can't even believe it's been that long. But I love it, and it's great. And I love being on the fan side of it. I went to Vegas for the first time 2 years ago, just because I wasn't working tournaments. And then I've done it, obviously, work-wise. So have you been to many NCAA tournaments or Final Fours? I mean, I know you're a young guy, but, I mean, have you been to many?
I haven't been to that many. I've been to a couple. I went when, so I'm a New Yorker, as you know. I went to MSG when they had the regional there. They've had a couple now, but this was probably 6 or 7 years back. And I went at that point to one. I went to another regional in Washington, D.C. I've never done one as a broadcaster, obviously, being able to call one. You mentioned Tim Brando. That's a guy, obviously, I've looked up to. That's the goal for me as a broadcaster of basketball. I want to get to the point where whether it's on TV or radio, calling an NCAA tournament one day. So that's certainly on the bucket list. But I haven't been to a Final Four, been to a couple of different regionals, been to a couple of, first-round type site games and that kind of thing. When I was in college, I went to the West Regional in Seattle too. They had a regional going on there,
That's
which
very
isn't
cool.
that not that
and
far away from
Santa Clara, right?
Santa Clara along me on the West Coast.
Once again, he's from the East Coast, New York area, and then went to college across the country at Santa Clara. That must have been fun. But by the way, Tim Brando is finished his season now as of last weekend with the Big East, so he's going to talk to you about maybe some future stuff. Real quick, what year were you born?
1996.
Okay, we did tournaments then. I mean, that's how long. We've been doing tournaments since the early 90s. So, yeah, now I feel really old. But that's the year Kentucky won the NCAA tournament. And
right.
Obviously, we did a lot of
Tubby
Kentucky
Smith,
stuff.
right?
No, that was Rick Pitino.
Oh,
Tubby won in 98.
Okay, 98.
Tubby won in 98, and Rick left in 97 after Arizona won that year. But let's talk about this year and what's happening. Let's talk about first of all, Will Wade and the magical run. I'm going to give you the floor because McNeese State Cowboys did something nobody expected before the season.
No, this has been absolutely remarkable. They have actually matched the largest single-season turnaround in the history of college basketball. They've gone from 11 wins a year ago. They won 11 games each of the previous 2 seasons. Will Wade takes over. He was actually hired a year to the day from when they won the Southland Conference Tournament Championship just a couple days ago, and he promised they would go from 23 losses to 23-plus wins. They've won 30 games. They're 30-3. They've won 25 of 26. They've won 11 straight.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second because we'll just put on this graphic. Andy Katz, whether you like him or not, he put his top 10 matchups in the first round, and I can't disagree with this. That McNeese, third. McNeese, out of the 32 games, not even counting the play-in ones, but that's the one he picked third. Now, I'm telling you, maybe because we're from Louisiana, that might be first for me. Because I'm looking forward to see Gonzaga, who's usually a 1 or 2, at worst 3 seed generally lately, right? And then they're a 5. Many said they should have been a 6 or 7. Very winnable game for McNeese.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we were talking about the story of McNeese and what they've done turning this thing around. I mean, Will Wade has been a winner everywhere he's been. He's taken, again, a team that won 11 games to 30 wins. They're red hot. They've won 11 straight. I think the number one thing that sticks out about them, they've won nearly every game by double digits. They just don't play in that many close games. Now, you would figure against a Gonzaga team, I mean, Mark Few is in his 25th consecutive tournament. McNeese is there for the first time since 2002. There's something to be said for having experience the way that the guys on Gonzaga did. Remember, they were in Elite Eight, not a year ago. It wasn't very long ago, and you got a lot of guys there who have been to Final Fours and have won NCAA tournament games. But no, that is certainly that McNeese-Gonzaga game is a game to watch for me in the first round. If you're looking at potential upsets, there's a lot of people, prognosticators out there who are picking McNeese, and it's hard to blame them when you see what they've done. But if you dig into the roster that Will Wade has,
talk about that real quick.
Yeah, no, we were talking about this last time I was on. Shahade Wells is the Southland Player of the Year. He was at TCU. He actually lost to Gonzaga in last year's first round of the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
So you think that guy has a little extra motivation going on in the back of his head? Yeah. So they were playing, early last year in an early matchup in the tournament. Christian Shoemate has now been around the program for 3 years. I mean, that's a guy who stuck around with Will Wade. He won 22 games his first 2 years at McNeese. He's won 30 this year. You got a guy like Antavion Collum, who's been a really good stretch for them all year. DJ Richards was at UTSA, can shoot the lights out. Really good shooting team, really experienced team. They can make some noise, not just winning one game. I could see them winning multiple games in this thing if the draw works out the right way.
Some people are putting them in the Sweet 16. And listen, who knows? We've seen St. Peter's go to the Elite Eight as a 15 seed. We've seen some crazy things happening. The parity in basketball, as you know, speaking of Shahade Wells, this guy was not only the MVP of the conference, but MVP of the tournament as well. He's going to be a baller.
Yeah, no, he's one of those guys you look at, okay, who can be a takeover type guy in March. There's always somebody who emerges every single year in the Madness. I know we were talking about UConn a little while back and Kemba Walker and the run that he went on. There have been so many guards who kind of have that type of run in March because ultimately it comes down to the guard play more often than not in March Madness. There's a reason why, as good as Zach Edey is at Purdue, they lost to a 16 seed last year because a big guy, much harder for a big guy to control a game, especially early on in a tournament.
I've been preaching it nonstop for people that don't know basketball as well. Why that is, especially when you have like maybe junior, senior leadership at guard. But guard play, they control the basketball. The big man's got to have somebody feed him and fan him, and that they can't really control it until they get the ball.
Yeah, I mean this is a guy. He's in his 6th year of college basketball in Shahade Wells. He had 27 points in the Southland semis, 27 in the finals. He's the only guy in McNeese who's played in the NCAA tournaments. If you're looking at experience, Will Wade has coached in, now this is going to be his 6th NCAA tournament coaching in. Shahade Wells is the only player who's played in one, but that's a guy who has been a winner everywhere he's been, JUCO to UT Arlington to TCU and now to McNeese, and he's the kind of guard who can win you a game in March.
Yeah, I talked to Will yesterday, very excited. They play on Thursday. They leave today for Salt Lake City. They take off. They left today. This just shows at 7. We do air we taped this a little before it airs. But so they took off. They went to Salt Lake and they practiced this morning. Looking forward. Let's move forward to the SEC. 8 teams. Tied for most. We got a conference graphic here, and Big 12 and SEC had the most. 2 teams fought their way in from the tournament. And I'm going to say this. You had some, I'm going to say surprises, but they really were surprises for me in the SEC tournament. Maybe the way they won their games. Mississippi State and Texas A&M definitively earned their spots by big wins over good teams, Kentucky and as well as Tennessee. And so Mississippi State's one of these teams I don't think anybody really wants to play right now. They opened up with Michigan State, but we're talking about, you see that game. That surprised a lot of people. It didn't surprise me they won. It surprised me they won so big and they controlled it. But when you look at the SEC, we all know about Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, who looked very strong in the SEC tournament. They won it. Kentucky came on strong at the end of the season, except in that tournament game. This was the biggest shocker, a 30-point win over a number 11 team. But South Carolina still plays great defense, and you got Florida until they lost their big man. They've been playing great basketball, and then I mentioned Texas A&M and Mississippi State. Did this conference warrant 8 teams, and can any of those teams make a serious run?
I don't know about 8, but it warranted a 6 or 7 range. It got a little dicey with some of the ones that got in.
A&M is what you're talking about then.
Yeah, I think there were a couple for me that were questionable.
But Mississippi State was 8-10 in conference.
Yeah.
You could argue that too.
I got to say, the SEC getting 8, I don't have as much a problem with that as I do with the Big East only getting 3 bids. With how good the Big East is historically and what they've done. You can see the bid breakdown by league.
This is a regional argument here. He's from New York, but I do agree.
No,
Big East should have 5 teams.
Hey, I've got a lot of respect for the SEC. You know how much I appreciate SEC basketball.
I'm just saying I agree with you. The SEC's got more teams, so it's going to be a ratio of different. Of course. But they should have 5. I agree. I'm going to stick with the SEC with 8 because I think Texas A&M earned it at the end. I don't love A&M, but they do have that guard that can score on anybody, and that's the thing that separates them from past SEC Texas A&M teams. They just have something a little different this year. I don't think they're going to go very far in the tournament, but they're decent enough to be in.
No, I understand them being in. I get it. I think, look, I mean, Buzz, and we know what he can do and the job he does there. I think, part of it, you saw the graphic on the Mountain West getting 6, and it's kind of year in, year out thing now with the Mountain West where they're able to load up their schedule. They get a lot of their quad 1 and quad 2 wins within the Mountain West Conference and end up getting a ton of bids. They have not had a lot of success
6
outside
teams,
of.
But not good seeds.
No,
you notice that.
They did get burned by the seed lines a little bit this year. But, San Diego State did make the Final Four a year ago and ended up going to, the national championship game. But outside of that, they have not had a lot of success as a conference.
15 seconds on each of these schools in the SEC. Tennessee, why can they win?
I think they got a guy in Dalton Connect who can take over a game at any point. He's a really good player.
Kentucky Wildcats.
John Calipari's been there and done it. It's hard to bet against him.
It's been 12 years. It's been 12 years. He's done it once. I don't think Kentucky fans are happy about that.
He's been there, and they have an offense that can erupt. I mean, you saw what they did to Alabama and put up 110 points.
That Shepard, Dillingham combination, Reeves, they're fun now, and they're coming in at the right time. Let's go with Auburn.
Tell you what, Bruce Pearl, hard to bet against the guy in March. He just finds a way to win, doesn't he?
He's a great coach, right?
They have a way to win. Remember, it wasn't too long ago that he was playing in the Final Four. He was this close to a national title game. If they don't foul a shooter for Virginia, I got a lot of respect for the way he coaches in March. That guy's won games there.
If you take Florida off Alabama's schedule, they might be one of the favorites. But Florida just has whooped them a couple times. But Florida... that's Florida there. Let's talk about Alabama first, because Alabama has Sears, who I think can play with anybody. This team's more offensive-oriented, but can they do anything?
Yeah. I'll tell you one guy people should keep an eye on, Aaron Estrada. They added him in the offseason as a big transfer from Hofstra. The combination with him and Sears, the fact that Alabama was there a year ago, they were close to getting over the hump, that's why they can go far. They got guys now who've done it, and they got to tell you what, it's a pretty balanced front court as well. I think can do some good things.
Walter Clayton at Florida has made me a believer. I'm going to tell you, they did lose a big man, but their guard play, I didn't believe in Florida at all until the last, 3 weeks. And I'm just like, the guy with the headband right there is surprising the heck out of me because he goes coast to coast as fast as anybody. And he is not scared.
No, he's a heck of a player. I don't know if people appreciate the job that Todd Golden has been able to do with this Florida team.
Unbelievable coach.
You mentioned I'm a Santa Clara alum. He coached against my Broncos in the West Coast Conference. He took San Francisco to their first NCAA tournament since 1998. If you can do it there, you can surely do it at Florida.
Well, that's we played Matt McMahon, right, in that game, obviously.
Against Murray State,
Murray State, one of the best games of the tournament that year.
Right.
That was a phenomenal game. San Francisco coach. And then South Carolina faltered a little bit towards the end, but they have the coach of the year in the conference. And Texas A&M, Mississippi State, we think maybe a win or two, possibly at most.
Yeah, I tell you what, South Carolina was a team I was looking at as, despite what happened in the SEC tournament, could go on a run, and then they got matched up with Oregon. Did you see what Oregon did in the Pac-12 tournament? Dana Altman, I don't know how he...
Sweet 16 every year.
John Rothstein, John Rothstein, the guy for CBS, he makes the joke. His name's Dana Altman. He outlines Rubik's Cubes. It's unbelievable what this guy does. He just puts puzzle pieces together, and he finds a way to get the dance. And Oregon, every time they're in the tournament, they win games. He went to a Final Four not too long ago. It's amazing.
My producer read my mind right here. I was going to say, let's look at brackets. There you go. There's the Midwest. Zach Edey's picture for Purdue. We know what Purdue does. Lose in the tournament. Can Purdue change their luck this year? And look at that real quick and give me about 20, 30 seconds on what could happen here.
Yeah, I think Purdue has the most favorable draw of any one seed to get to the Final Four, just the way that it's constructed. I just feel like, last year they ran into, we mentioned the FDU loss.
They learned from their mistake, you think?
Well, I think that's part of it, but, also, they lost to St. Peter's the year before that. It's like, how many times do you go through this before you learn your lesson? Now, I'll say this, there has to be hesitancy.
Dickinson and St. Peter's.
There has to be hesitancy because of going through those two. I'm just saying, from a draw perspective, it's the most most favorable draw of any 1 seed to get to the Final Four, just considering who they're matched up with and that sort of thing. But there are a lot of, look, there are teams in there that can certainly go and bust a bracket, and we talked about McNeese being in there.
Yeah.
Gonzaga is a team that, look, if they can get by McNeese, Mark Few has been there and done it. Kansas needs to get healthy, to be a question mark to see if they can. They're battling a lot of injuries right now, but I would say Purdue
McCullers has to play for Kansas. Though.
Yeah, well, McCullers been banged, and Hunter Dickinson had the dislocated
might
shoulder.
Not play either. Kansas might be in trouble in the first round against Samford.
Right.
Samford.
That's a Bucky McMillan. That's a good team.
Bucky ball is for real. I was with Coach Brady, who coached at Samford for LSU, watching that championship game, and we laugh. You set the foundation, Coach. No, that team plays good. Let's go to the other conference. Let's go to the West here. North Carolina is the one at the top, but there's a couple. Arizona, who lost to Oregon in the tournament. That team's talented. Alabama at 4. They can score on anybody. Baylor's been there before. Grand Canyon. Let's throw a Grand Canyon love out real quick.
Yeah, Grand Canyon. I actually saw them very early on in the season. A couple games for CBS Sports Network.
And they can win.
They are. They're 29-4.
Yeah.
Bryce Drew, for people who don't know what this guy's done, and by the way, yes, that's the Bryce Drew who hit the shot for Valpo against Ole Miss back in '98.
When you were 2, right? You remember that well.
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, I was watching it live in my crib.
Right.
No, but 3 tournaments in 4 years for Grand Canyon. He has an unbelievable team, and I'll tell you what, he's got one of the great stories in college basketball on his team. A guy named Tyon Grant Foster. Get familiar with this guy. He was at DePaul. He collapsed with a heart issue, took 2 years off from basketball. He's one of the best players in the country. He can single-handedly win them a couple of games in this bracket, but that, I think, is my most fascinating region with how many teams can win.
We got to look at the South real quick. South, come on, we got South and East. South has got, we have our graphic. Do you know off the top of your head who's in the South? There we go. We got, Houston got slammed by Iowa State. Are they going to come back angry? Because I don't really like to ever bet against Kelvin Sampson. I'm going to tell you, that's a Bulldog coach, and he's got a Bulldog team that has the best offensive and defensive rebounding team, to me. I know Florida's good in the country. They get more second chance points. I'm not saying they're number 1 in stats. They may be, but I watch them. The eye test tells me this team wants it. Marquette at 2. If Tyler Coley plays, they got a shot. But what do you look at this and see?
Yeah, Houston certainly, should a rightful 1 seed. Kelvin Sampson, the job that he's done, you can't understate just how impressive, how consistently good they have been now. I think that, they ran into last year a Miami team under Jim Larinaga. You think about last year, we didn't have a single, top 4 seed in the Final Four. So the job that he's been able to do has been amazing. Duke has kind of been up and down this year. We know that, and that's usually a team you'd look at and say, oh boy, what's going to go on, as far as they can do in March. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting region too.
Let's look at the East real quick. We're running out of time here. East regional right here. Okay, UConn is the overall 1 seed. I'm going to throw up if I hear another national head say UConn can't be beat. That's the biggest crap I've ever heard. First of all, it's hard to repeat. They got a Bulldog coach themselves, and Danny Hurley, right?
Hurley.
And his dad was a legendary high school coach. His brother, we know what he's done now at Arizona State. Great player. They're a great team. They don't have many weaknesses, but I'll take the field all day if you're going to give me one team with them, because they have a little tough route here. They got San Diego State, who was in the Final Four last year. Florida Atlantic was in the Final Four last year. You have Iowa State, who won their conference tournament very easily. Auburn, who won theirs very easily. Looking through this, it's not going to be easy to get to the Final Four, but everybody seems to put them there already. What are your thoughts? I only got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, they were given no favors by the committee with what they got. You mentioned Iowa State just obliterated Houston in the Big 12 championship game. I don't know how many people saw that coming.
Good,
they are, and the job that Otzelberger has done has been remarkable. Illinois is a 3 seed is dangerous. I don't know how much you watch the Big Ten tournament.
Too, that's right.
They just knocked off Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament title game, and they've got a guy in Terrence Shannon who's, I think, one of the best players in the country. He's the kind of guy who can take over this entire tournament and carry Illinois to a Final Four. And then we mentioned Bruce Pearl and Auburn. They've been there and gotten to a Final Four before too.
Should have been in the finals. That was a crazy lucky play by Virginia that got them. I'm going to give you my secret, my sleeper. Creighton. I love this team. I love McDermott, coach. I like the little pieces. You got to take some chances. Now, if you're in your mom's little pool with 8 teams, don't pick Creighton. But if you got a pool with 100 to 300 people, you got to take some chances. And the times I've won those big ones is when I've taken a 3 seed to win it. And I'm not saying they're going to, but they have a shot.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. I think that McDermott does a great job as a coach. I think UConn, the #1 advantage they've got is geography early on, because they don't have to leave kind of their local region until the Final Four, potentially in Arizona. They get to go through Brooklyn and then Boston. So it's going to be like stores north and south as they start off the tournament. But
they're tough, man.
They are.
And if they can win, that'll be 6. That'll be 6. Yeah. They're already in the elite programs. But then I talked about with Duke, Carolina, Kansas, and them. But I think if they win this one, they're right there in the elite from all times.
There's a reason that they're picked to repeat as far as the odds makers go. They brought back a lot from last year. They added, a bunch. They've got a terrific freshman. There's a lot of depth.
And they play hungry. That's the thing. They don't rest on laurels. That's one team you can't say, oh, because they won last year, they're probably not going to do it. I've said that just now, but if there's one team that can do it, because they play hungry like they are disrespected, and I like that. Yeah. So those are the 1 seeds here. I got to go because we got to talk Saints. And coming up, hey, that was the quickest 20 minutes you've ever done, huh? Okay.
It's up there for sure.
Task performance. You had one before. Did you like it?
Of course. Loved it.
Do you? I gave you Shea Shays last time, correct? Or did I give you Steakhouse?
So. I came back on the show just for this. Did
you? Bingo. So your knowledge is phenomenal. I appreciate you. Mr. John's Steakhouse.
Awesome.
Desi Vegas. That's one of his restaurants. So you can get there and have some steak this time. There he is. That's Jack Benjamin. He is the next Iron Eagle on the national scene. I've been saying it, and you're going to see it right before your eyes.
First Final Four for him this year.
I told Iron Eagle that he was the next Jim Nantz 20 years ago. That's a fact. We were in Tokyo when I told him that, and here he is taking Jim Nantz's place. Correct?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's amazing. People are going to be, they might not be familiar with Iron Eagle's voice. You better get familiar. He's calling his first Final Four.
And he's going to be there for a long time.
He is incredible.
Jack Benjamin will be replacing him in 2048. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to talk Saints. Boy, has this been a busy Monday yesterday. And they're making moves now. They were slow in the process, but my man Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, is the best in the business. Another guy that I think is going to be as national as he wants to be. He is good as it gets when it's talking Saints and NFL in general. So he's next right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports, and you can't watch anything with the Saints without seeing my next guest, and rightfully so. I mean, he came on the scene a couple years back, maybe 3, I don't know. But all of a sudden, the first time I saw Ross Jackson, I'm like, this guy's got chops. He's great. And he has a theater background, which I love. I actually went to a high school play the other day because I just love theater myself. But we're going to talk Saints. Right now, we're going to talk free agency, which he had a big week. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming draft, some spots, maybe with that 14th pick, or maybe what they need coming on. But here he is. Let's get right to business. Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints. Welcome back.
Hey, buddy. Thank you so much for having me back. And look, you must love theater if you're going to high school plays, man.
You know, you know, it's funny you say that because I love the Sanger. I have season tickets. Yep. I go to a lot of plays around town, Le Petit, all that. But I have a friend that's a director at Sacred Heart, and I just happened to call and said, hey, when's something coming up? Yeah. She says, well, Newsies is happening now. I'm like, you know what, let's go. I did it, and it was fun. And watching,
passion.
Because that's where I started too. I'm like, I loved it. Yep. And you were the same. And you did something out west, I think. Where were you?
Yeah, oh, goodness. I went to grad school out there, did my master's in theater and all that. I worked at the Geffen Playhouse, which is one of the premier theaters in Los Angeles. I was their artistic producer and everything there. I did Broadway.
So you still love it then?
Yeah, oh yeah. Okay. Still go to shows all the time. I love the shout out to Le Petit. That's like one of my favorites to hit up every now and then.
Well, I'm going to shout out my friend Save That, Dickie Brennan. If it wasn't for him buying Tableau, that was going to be a movie theater probably. I hate to say that, but that would have been terrible for that spot.
It was a
right on
huge,
Jackson Square.
Move.
So let's talk Saints. You know, I get sick of the national prognosticator. I heard something that almost made me throw up saying, oh, the Saints are going to be the worst team in the NFL. I'm like, what are you watching? They try so hard to go 7-10. I'm like, they went 7-10 one year. All right? They haven't had the bottom drop out. And for me as a Saints fan that remembers the 70s when they were 1-15 in the 80, and then 5-9 back in the 14-game schedule. We throw a parade.
Yes.
So hey, 8-9, 9-8. I don't love it, but I don't want to see 2-15 now. They play 17. So going in, a loose interpretation in your mind what the Saints might be next season.
Yeah, I think that this is a team that still has some building to do over the course of the offseason. They're in a nice, comfortable spot. They're not in a situation at all to where you go, oh, they're one piece away from being a playoff team, or they're one piece away from being a Super Bowl contender. They have to rebuild some stuff, whether that's in the middle of the roster, finding their pass rusher, which they got a little bit of help with, helping to rebuild their offensive line, bringing in a new system, all these other things. So I think that they're going to be a team that's going to have some growing pains early on in the season.
Sure.
But if they can catch on a little bit quicker than they did last year, it took them about 12 games last season. If they can catch on a little bit earlier here, then they should be a team that's still in conversation.
And we know the schedule was very light at the end of the season. Right. But the fact is Derek Carr did play better.
Yeah.
He was at times hard to watch. Let's just make it nice that way. But at the end, man, I was seeing the team that was starting to gel a little bit. And the crazy thing about it, Ross, is that when you see the Bucks, who everybody seems to start loving again, now they got Baker back, they have the same record. The Saints beat them, they beat the Saints. Okay, they have a tiebreaker, so now this means the Saints are going to bottom out and they're going to continue rising. That's what's so. The fans in the NFL just like don't look at the whole picture, and they sometimes it makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's oftentimes where you spend so much time looking at the previous season and then trying to build your expectations of the next season on that. So teams that made the playoffs, everyone expects to make the playoffs again, which we know 100% is never the case.
Never.
And in teams that don't make the playoffs, there's an overwhelming expectation that they won't make the playoffs again, which is the other side of that conversation, which we know always happens. That somehow some team that didn't make the playoffs this season before will end up.
Somehow it happens, right?
Because it's the NFL, right? It's attrition, it's parity, it's all these other things.
Well, since we mentioned the Bucks and obviously the Saints, I wasn't going to start here, but segue's perfect. The Falcons are now a darling for a lot of people to win. They got Kirk Cousins, much like last year. There was some buzz when Derek Carr came here. Kirk has had more success in the NFL, but literally similar type success in the NFL. He's had a little more. But the fact is what does this mean for Saints fans who hate Atlanta?
Yeah, I think you just get to hate them a little bit more.
There you go.
I mean? They're a team that I think is going to, they've made some good moves. I think in addition to landing Kirk Cousins, they make the trade to bring Darnell Mooney to to Atlanta and all these other pieces. And so I see the vision of what they're building, bringing in Zach Robinson, bringing back Raheem Morris, all these other pieces, so that they can make sure that they're kind of rebuilding their approach to the offense, which was one of their sort of death knells last year. Now, they still have to build up their defense. They still have to get all that right. But I think that they're a team that's going to make some noise over the course of the offseason. We have to see what it looks like on the field, who actually hits the field, what does the roster look like, what's their schedule look like. Still so many questions to answer before we really get to the point where we can start crowning teams for divisions.
Exactly, and I have to say this. I was so excited when I saw the news. I got it a little bit later than most because I was doing stuff all day. I got home and I turned my computer on, and then I saw Chase Young coming to the Saints. Now, I'm going to say this. Maybe there's some luster off of his star for whatever reason because he hasn't performed. He was defensive player rookie of the year, right? Just in 2020. And he had injury 2021. He went to the Super Bowl in a midseason trade with the 49ers coming from the Washington Commanders. But this is a guy that I'm looking at, and he had a quote with Cam Jordan. Seems to have the right attitude. He's like, I can't wait to play with Cam right there. I'm ecstatic. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm going a little farther, but to me, this is a home run in a position we need to get somebody good.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, this was a big goal for the Saints this offseason. They wanted to address their pass rusher. They wanted to address their pass rush. They wanted to add speed on their defensive line as well, and that's what Chase Young is. He is a full-on speed pass rusher that can be very disruptive off the edge. I see a lot of people sort of talking about a quote-unquote decline for him and things like that, but he had one of his better seasons last year with 7.5 sacks, 66 total pressures just in the regular season, which would have made him #1 on the Saints roster. And you can already see he's got some relationships with guys already in the locker room and all that. Yep, Alvin Kamara. He spoke so highly of guys like Cam Jordan and Demario Davis as well. Spoke so highly of Carl Granderson over on the opposite side of Dennis Allen. He's an Ohio State Buckeye, just like Pete Werner and Marshawn Lattimore. Like, it's a really symbiotic fit for him. And I think one of the big sort of conversations around him throughout his career has been effort, and I wonder how much of that is, first of all, Washington's culture, not really one you want to compare yourself to.
He mentioned culture coming here.
Exactly, and then he mentioned culture, family orientation, all those things being very important to him. I'm curious to see if maybe just being in the right spot, maybe this is one of those situations where a change of environment has that positive impact.
I'm the
just
eternal
like San Francisco
optimist,
did.
and people always say, man, you're too half-glass full. I'm like, is that a bad thing? I think this is a great fit. It's a 1-year prove-it deal. And we've seen those work before. Look at Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
And let's go forward because I think Willie Gay is going to be great too.
Yeah.
I personally, both these guys are in the draft class of 2020. They're not over the hill. It seems like that's when you come into your prime around your 5th season. This is a guy that started 56 games. You count the playoffs. Started 9 playoff games in the last 3 years. I mean, Willie Gay is a linebacker I think we're going to be hearing about for a minute.
Yeah, I'm really excited about him. You know, he's a 6'2", 240-ish pound type of guy, 4.46 speed at the second level, Mississippi State. So he's already got connections with guys like Todd Grantham, who's the Saints defensive line coach, which was his former defensive coordinator at Mississippi State. You know, he teams back up with some former teammates as well, Tyrann Mathieu, Tano Passanio, Colin Saunders, all on the defensive side. So, you know, you see all this sort of...
A lot of connection there.
Yeah, like introduce you to something new and a new change of environment and all that, but put you in a place where you're comfortable and you have a little bit of cohesion and continuity for yourself in terms of your ability to be able to adjust. They did that on the coaching staff, and they've done that with some of these players as well. I think Willie Gay is going to be one of those signings that happened early. Not a lot of people are going to talk about it nationally or anything like that, much like the Malcolm Brown signing years ago, Manti Te'o years ago, Alex Okafor years ago, that ends up not being necessarily a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro. You don't want to put the stamp of expectation on him too much, but ends up having a major impact, or at least an impact greater than the news coverage would tell you.
Right, and the Pro Bowl, there's so few that make that. I mean, we seem to judge. There's so many people or players that come in situations that work for this team and beat them. There's the margin of error, as you know, and the margin in the NFL. Sometimes it takes a player like this to get you that next step. Maybe it gets you that 10th win instead of being tied in the tiebreaker or not.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead before we talk about anybody else new. I'm going to say something about Demario Davis coming back. I just think this is one of the greatest signings the Saints have ever had, other than Drew Brees. I mean, and Jonathan Velma. These guys, this guy is such a glue guy for this team. One of the greatest locker room guys I've ever seen. And I can't say enough great things about him as a person and a player. I want your thoughts on bringing him back, and you can segue that into Honey Badger as well.
Yeah, both of those guys now on contract through the 2025 season. So really these are moves for the next year, which I think was really solid.
Right.
I think Demario Davis is the second best free agent acquisition of the New Orleans Saints franchise history.
I agree.
Right? There's Derek Carr. There's Drew Brees.
Let's hope it's Derek Carr.
There's Drew Brees, and then there's Demario Davis.
Yes.
And, you know, Jonathan Vilma would be on that list too. It was a trade from, you know, maybe one of the better trades.
Right. You're right, Trey.
But like, I just think that Demario is just one of those guys that is culture defining, franchise defining. When they signed him in 2018, coming off of that 2017 draft, which completely changed and revolutionized their defense, he helped to revitalize the idea of defense in New Orleans for this team as a whole. Because remember, we're coming fresh off 2014, 15, and 16, horrific defenses those years.
Oh, I mean, you're talking about historically bad.
Yes.
Like, people forget that, historically bad. And then now they have a defense that you can be proud of. I mean, a couple of years ago, it was one of the best in the league.
Right.
Okay, then let's add these pieces together. Lattimore, is he going to be around? We got him, or is there going to be a trade possibly? I mean, what are you thinking about the pieces that fit right now in place at this moment?
I think the way that I look at this, with having lost Isaac Yiadom, who is going to be one of the potential replacement players.
That's true.
Should Marshawn Lattimore have been traded, that it just makes it more important to keep him in the building.
Okay.
Whatever relationship, whatever fray, whatever it is that has led to sort of this restructure of the contract that opened up the idea of a trade and all that should be mended.
Right.
And that I believe that they should be working to keep Marshawn Lattimore on the field, especially now with the addition of Chase Young, because it changes the complexion of how you play defense now. Because you have a pass rusher that doesn't need 5-6 seconds worth of coverage to get to the quarterback, which is the Saints like second effort players, right? People that can outlast offensive linemen, all those other things. Now you got Carl Granderson, you got Chase Young who can get after these guys quickly. So whatever concerns you had about Marshawn Lattimore, whether they were technique related, whether they were injury related, whatever it might be, they can be alleviated now because of the pressure that your defensive line can get on the quarterback.
Right. This is the kind of analysis I'm talking about right here. Hey, the offense side. Obviously, Cedric Wilson's maybe not a Pro Bowler, but this is a guy that can make plays. You know, the Saints have proven that they got guys that you might not know much about, and all of a sudden making plays. Michael Thomas, that drama's gone. Chris Olave is potentially a star in this league. But what is a guy like Cedric Wilson, and we'll throw Stanley Morgan in there. I don't know how many reps he's going to get on offense, but a New Orleans guy, St. Aug. I called his TV games in 2014 at St. Aug, and I did his Nebraska games. So we do with Tim Brando. So awesome. I know him well enough to know that this guy's got a great attitude, and he wants to be home. So talk about those two really quick, and I want to get into some free agent possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with Cedric Wilson. The key thing I think you get with Cedric Wilson Jr. is a good possession receiver, 6 drops over the course of his career, and he's been in the league for a while. His best season, his best season in 2021 came from him operating out of the slot. He runs routes very well over the middle of the field. He's a good hands catcher, and he's a guy that can make some tough contested catches for you in the middle of the field as well. Something that the Saints were kind of missing in 2024.
True.
Or excuse me, 2023. So I think he can potentially bring you that, those types of additions over on that side. He's also a solid blocker.
And I mentioned Stanley, so let's move real quick. A couple free agent guys that you may think that the Saints could benefit from having.
Yeah, I think one of the guys that I look at that could still get kind of lumped in here is looking at the offensive line and Dalton Reisner. Dalton Reisner spent
Broncos.
time with spent time in Denver, also spent time in Minnesota as well. So he's got some of those little overlaps and landing spots with some of the other coaching staff that the Saints have brought in. Clint Kubiak.
He's a K-State guy. He's a K-State guy, right?
I believe so. Yes. Yeah. So
and also you have somebody else. I can't think. You mentioned somebody yesterday.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it depends on where all that you're looking. I think that keeping a guy like Jonathan Abram is certainly big. I think that or trying to get that done. I think that trying to add more talent at wide receiver, maybe a guy that makes Derek Carr comfortable, like a Hunter Renfrow, potentially could make some sense as well.
This guy, let me say this. I remember when he caught the game-winning pass against Alabama, and as an LSU fan, I was not upset. Okay, but there it is right there. Hunter Renfrow is the perfect kind of possession guy. He was a walk-on at Clemson, and this guy worked his way into his role, and obviously somebody Derek Carr trusted.
Yes.
Draft. Okay, so you got a minute right now. You have the floor. What are some things you think the Saints possibly could do?
So if they don't get the opportunity to address their offensive line in free agency, then I think in round one, free agency makes sense at 14, or excuse me, offensive line makes sense at 14. So a guy that I really like there is the Penn State offensive tackle, Olu Fashanu. He's a guy that I'm just convinced
Man among boys.
I'm just convinced he's going to be that guy. They could go wide receiver as well. Roma Dunze, they could wait around at 14 and go with a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. There's some good spots.
Dunze's great too. They're two different kind of receivers. Brian Thomas is the guy who shocked me last year. 17 touchdowns. And obviously, if you watch the combine, he's one of the dudes that blew up.
Yep.
I could talk to you all night. I'm looking at my clock breaking me down, but we're going to give gifts. I know I'm going to give you Shays Della Shays, okay? Because
thank you, man.
This is a place on Maple Street I know you're going to love, and it's right there between Carrollton and Broadway. And also, you can go to use that at Della Shays as well. And this test performance, I'm going to tell you, these are the softest. And I appreciate you so much, man.
Of course.
I really do. I really love when you come on. I love what you're doing with Doug, and I see you almost, is it every Sunday now?
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday. I'm about to say, and Doug's one of my favorite guys. Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints. You probably already know. Get all the social media, follow him, and then check his podcast out as well. Hey, great show. We got so much coming. We're going to have Will Wade, whenever he loses, he's going to come on the show. I didn't even want to tell you. We got a lot of great guests coming. Brian Kelly's going to be coming, the LSU football coach, and we're going to keep moving forward. But, hey, thank you all for watching. See you next week right here on Primetime Sports.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.